and welcome back. Time to recreate the thing that we did in class, at least for the Tuesday group. At least like the first part of this project. I'm recording this on Tuesday evening of the after the first class, so let's see how it goes on for the tomorrow's group, like if we're able to go further than we did on Tuesday. But anyway, the entire project that we're creating, I'm gonna break it apart into 3 different videos, and then you can go and check them out on the course website later. So what we're trying to recreate in TouchDesigner is a type of kind of a slide mechanism from the Magic Lantern examples that I showed you. So we're going to create a Chromatrope. So Chromatrope was usually it was made of 2 different slides of these sort of geometric patterns, and the 2 slides would rotate in opposite directions, and that would create this kind of like a sort of kaleidoscope effect. To do this, I've linked up on the website, on the course website, I've linked up, there's this in-class example under the 001 page for the first session. There's the in-class example, and here we have a link that says download some images of slides from here. So this takes into this like an archive website where we have a nice set of different slides from a real Chromatrope. So this is going to be as authentic as we can get in using a sort of completely digital tools here. So what I would like you to do, if you haven't done already, is to download all of these images. So you can click on the image and it will take you to a bit higher resolution. These are quite low resolution anyway. These are like 500 by 500 pixels, but that's enough for what we're trying to do. So go and just save all of these images into some folder on your computer, and pause the video while you do that, and come back to here once you have downloaded all of these, and then we'll continue. You don't necessarily need this last one because it's just showing the whole thing in place, but all of these different slides, download them and then come back to here. Okay, so I'm assuming by now you have downloaded all the files, so I have them here. So that's 18 files in total, and you'll notice that they are sort of in pairs. So the way that these were made was that they kind of work the best when they are used as 2 of them as a pair, and they kind of create a very sort of specific pattern. So pairing these 2 up, will work nicely. So they're almost the same, but they're kind of like mirrored versions of each other, with maybe some small changes also, but essentially like a mirrored images of the other one. So what I would like you to do is then that let's start off this project by just using one of the pairs of images, and to kind of keep things organized a little bit better, I would recommend, so I'm continuing here from the last video. So this is like I've just deleted all of the sample operators here. If you're starting from scratch, just do that. Just delete all the template that is built in TouchDesigner. Delete that and continue from here. So, but what I would like to do is I want to save or even create a project folder for my project, which allows me then to have to kind of create an image folder where I would put all of these files, and then it kind of just keeps things nicely in place. So what I'll do is I'll go and say in TouchDesigner, in this empty file, I will do create project folder, and then choose where do you want to save your files. In my case, I want to put it here. I have this TouchDesigner folder, and then I have a folder called tutorial videos there. So I'm going to select that folder, just wherever you want. There's no like real sort of a place, one exact place where you should have all your files. Just make a folder somewhere on your computer where you're going to save all your TouchDesigner stuff, or use the OneDrive for all that you have. And for this one, I'm going to create a project folder, and I'm going to call this 001. Yeah, I'll call it 001 and Chromatrope. Did I spell it correctly? I think so. And I want to create an image folder. I think that's I don't need any audio files. I don't need really any movies or geos or channels. I just want to have a folder called images or image, and then I will put all of these there. And I also want to rename the file to be the same as my project name. So it's not called new project, but Chromatrope. Okay, and then create. And then it should kind of automatically do all the stuff that I want it to do, and then just click save to save it. And there we go. It opens the folder also for you once you save it. And over here, what I would like to do is I want to go into the image folder, and I want to copy all of these slides that I just downloaded. I want to copy all of these into the image folder. So just copy and paste them there. So now we have them all here, and then I can close this other folder, and I will then load them up to or add them to TouchDesigner. So for the movie, like when you bring in images or video files, there's two ways to create them. Either you can just I'm now going to TouchDesigner, and what I can do here is just click tab, go to tops, and add the movie file in. Remember, you can also start typing movie file in, and once you've typed enough letters that there's only one choice available, you can kind of like click enter to create that operator. But and then I could go and change the file by clicking the plus and finding the files that I want to use. But since I have them kind of in a handy way here already in the folders, I could just also drag the image into my TouchDesigner editor, and I'll drag the second one also. So I have the first two images of the slides. So this one pair. So you notice that they're almost same, but they're kind of curved to different direction, and the sort of order of colors here is a bit different, at least how they are kind of like scanned here. And one thing to note maybe is important is that when I select it, you'll notice that the file path, since I have it in my project folder in a folder called image, it's now creating a relative path. So it's not adding the entire absolute path of where my file is, but rather that it's looking for wherever my file is saved, it's looking for a folder called image, and then it's looking for this file inside that folder, which probably isn't a good idea to do in general. Just kind of like keeping your stuff organized so that you have all the assets that you need inside the different folders within the project folder itself. So yeah, two images, and this is kind of just a recap of what we did in class. So this is if you forgot how to do something, or for those of you who are not I couldn't fit everyone in the class. So if you're watching this video outside the class, then this will also kind of keep you keep you on track on what we're doing there. So I'm gonna build the entire thing and explain kind of as if you don't know what we're doing at all. I will explain each step quite thoroughly. So you can pause, rewind, go back to if you didn't understand something, or if you just want to get a sort of a repeat of something I said. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do here, if I'm trying to recreate this magic lantern effect, so I'm essentially treating these images as if they are slides. So I'm gonna put them on top of each other. I'm going to kind of imagine that I'm projecting those images on a wall. So I'm shining white light through these images. So we need to somehow layer them on top of each other. And the way that you do it in TouchDesigner, so first of all, this is our first project. So how do we create new operators, and how do we connect them to the existing ones? So you can either, as I said, click tab to get this window open, or double click on the empty area to get it open. I like to use the tab. And the operator that we need now is, again, it's a texture operator. We're working in the realm of textures and pixels. So there's a operator called composite. So if you start typing comp, it's the only one that kind of shows up, and then you can hit enter to create it, or you can click on the actual object. So the typing just helps you find that specific operator from the list. And once you start working more and more in TouchDesigner, you kind of like start to remember the names, and you start to remember like what you should use in what situation. So this will kind of become more like a second nature to you if you work a lot here. So I'm just going to click enter to add the composite operator. And the composite operator, you'll notice that the input, it has this sort of like a wide gap compared to this output that's just like this tiny gap between the purple bars here. So if I hover over this, it says that it's a multi-input op. So what it means is that you can connect multiple outputs to this one input. It's not just waiting for one. So if I connect from the first movie file in operator, I connect the output to the input of the composite, and I'll do the same for the other one. It already layers them or composites these images on top of each other, and by default the operation is multiply. So there are different blend modes how these images are composited together, so you could change this if you want, but in our case I think actually multiply is exactly what we need. It will, as far as I can kind of like think, this is exactly what we need to do if we want to simulate the layering of two slides on top of each other, and then we're projecting like we would do in a magic lantern. So if there's black in either one of the slides, it will become black, so it's not going to let the light through. If there's white on both slides, it will just let the light through completely. If there's different colors on the different sides, it will just mix the colors together, and so on. So I think this should be sort of correct as far as like what would happen with real slides. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure multiply will do what we need to do. So yeah, that was actually it. That very simple. Just composite top, composite these things on top of each other, use the multiply, and we're done. Well, we're not done as far as the entire thing, but this part is done. Next step, what I would like to do, before we even start rotating things, I would like this to be a bit more accurate representation of what would be projected in through a magic lantern. So the magic lantern creates circular images. So obviously you wouldn't have this sort of background rectangle or square here around the image. So I want to mask out, mask this image so that only the inner circle shows, and then the white area will be cropped off. There are many ways to do this, and there are more efficient ways to do it that I'm going to show you. But the way that I'm showing you is maybe the kind of most resembles the way that you would do it in Photoshop, or you would do it in After Effects, by kind of applying a mask on this image. So I'm going to add a circle top, and I'm going to use this circle to create a mask that will then only show the slide part of the image and sort of mask out the rest of it. And in order to use this circle as a mask on this image, again, there are more efficient ways to do it, I know, but I'm gonna do it by using an operator called matte, M-A-T-T-E. And instead, this time when I create it, instead of just like clicking in the empty area and clicking tab and adding it, I want to show you another way. So you can also click on the output port of the operator where you want to connect something, and then I'm not even holding the mouse, I just click there, and then it starts dragging a new connection. And when I hit tab here, TouchDesigner knows that I'm trying to add something after this operator. So if I would go into like chop, it would not even show me anything else except the chops that I would be able to connect to this, or the sops that I would be able to connect to this. Of course, tops, because that's the same group that this comp is from, there's more options that I can choose from. So in this case, I wanted to use the M-A-T-T-E, so matte. And matte, what it does, composites input 1 over input 2 using the alpha channel of input 3 as a matte. So white pixels in the input 3's alpha channel will draw input 1 over input 2, and black will make input 1 transparent, leaving the input 2 image at that pixel. So this seems to be exactly what I want, so I'm going to click that. And automatically, since I started creating it when I had selected the output already, or started drawing a connection from there, it connected the output of my comp 1 to the input of the matte 1. So, and the matte has 3 inputs. The first one is source 1, the second one is source 2, and the third one is the matte, so the mask that I want to use to mask out part of the image. It's giving me an error now. If I click it, it will say, what's the problem? It says not enough sources specified. So I have 2 inputs disconnected, and that's why it's complaining. So let's connect them. So the circle, obviously this would go to the third one, because this is the mask or the matte that I want to use. But before I do it, let's make sure that this mask is the same pixel size as my original image. So if I middle click on the comp 1, I can see that the size of my composition or composite operator is 500 by 500, and that's because my source images are 500 by 500. So let's make the circle also the same pixel size. So we haven't really touched any of these settings yet, except maybe we looked at with the movie that we can change the image by clicking the plus and changing the file. But for the circle, well, first of all, there's in the circle options, there's a bunch of stuff we can do here. We'll come back to this in a moment because we'll need to change something here. But there's also this common that you will find in pretty much every single operator. There's a common page, and the common page for texture operators or tops always has this resolution line. So we can set the pixel size of my circle. I'm going to set it to 500 by 500. And now if I middle click on it, it says that the size is 500 by 500, which matches this. So it's all good. They're the same size. And now I can drag the output of my circle to the third input of my matte. So it will then be used as the matte. If you accidentally connect it to the wrong place, the way to disconnect a wire is by either right clicking it and saying disconnect, or if I accidentally connected it to the input 2, although I wanted to connect it here, another way to disconnect it is by dragging to the opposite direction from the input, just the line, and it will remove that. I'll show there's also like a way to replace a connection with a new connection. I'll show that when that becomes relevant to us. But for now, make sure that you connect your mask or the circle to the input 2, which is the matte. It's called input 2, but it's the third input that the matte object has. Sorry. Still, I get an error. It says not enough sources specified. So the matte doesn't work unless there's also something connected to input 1. So the it's input 1, which is the second source. And the thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to get rid of the white background and maybe replace it with a black background, or maybe replace it with a transparent background. And again, there are more efficient ways to do it, this whole thing that I'm showing you. But what we can do here is we can create a constant. So if you search for constant top, it shows up here. And what this does, it just creates an image that is with a constant color, and we can define what the color is. And you define the color with within the parameters within the constant page of the settings. But before we do it, let's make sure that this one also, in the common page, that this one also has the same resolution, so 500 by 500. And now I set it to the same size. I can connect it to the middle input here, and it works. But I mean, this is a bit stupid thing to do, so I'm replacing the white background with another white background, so obviously not really what I was after. So let's change the constant's color. Make sure it's selected, the constant operator. Go to the constant page on the parameters, click the color. It's just a square that has the actual color on it, and that opens a color picker. So of course here you can make it any color you want. If you would want to composite it over some bright color, for example. But in case I want, in my case, I want it to be black. So I just click on the black color here, close this color picker, and this would be fine already. But actually what I want to do is I want to composite this circle on top of a transparent background. And the way to do that is that I can change the alpha of this black color to 0, which then actually creates a transparent background for my slide composite. And that's it. Almost done. Maybe one thing I would want to still change here is that I just kind of like use the circle as is without changing any of the settings of it. So, and if you compare the matte to the original comp where I'm getting my slides from, you'll notice that I think the circle is a bit too small. Like it's cropping some part of the slide that I would want to be shown. So what I can do is I can scale this circle by going into the circle options. And in the circle options, the very first parameter that you can change is the radius of the circle. So I can, of course, I can type in here like 0.5 and 0.5. So that's changing the width and the height separately for my circle. Oh, but it seems that like that was too much. So it's now too big, the circle. So this would be kind of annoying to get exactly right by just adding the numbers in here. So what I can do is I still have my circle selected. So that's what's showing up in the parameter window. But at the same time that is selected, I can zoom in on the output, the matte that I have here. And what I can do is I can hover over the radius, the word radius that is here. And I can either click the left mouse button for a while, like a few seconds, and it will open up this ladder, this value ladder. So either holding left click for a little while, or the same thing appears also if you just click the middle mouse button, it immediately appears. And the value ladder is kind of a unique way of changing values in TouchDesigner. So this number 10, 1, 0.1, 0.01 or 0.001 decides if what is the increment of steps that I'm stepping or increasing or decreasing this value by. So if I choose 0.1, so basically hovering over that 0.1 value and then going left, I'm kind of changing the size of the circle in increments of 0.1. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 and 0.5. That doesn't really help me because that's still too big of a step in either direction. It's not going to work. So let's go back to 0.5, and then what I can do is instead of using the value ladder with 0.1 increments, I'll do it again. So I'll middle click on the radius, and I'll do 0.01 increments. And now I think I can get it to the kind of point where I'm kind of like close enough to the actual real edge of the slide. You don't have to be perfect here. I think for me the 0.47 is enough, but if you want to be more accurate, you can actually, you know, go into more details of the size. But for me, I think 0.47 is fine. But maybe you can see there's a bit of a rough edge here. Some white, maybe the slide is not exactly aligned to the center or whatever. So to get rid of that, I'm going to add a little bit of softness. So like, I don't know, 0.02 or 15 or something like this seems fine, just to smooth the edge of the slide a little bit. I think that's going to look nice once we actually view it on as a projection or a bigger screen. Okay, so we have the composited images. We cropped out only the circle. Next step is actually I want to rotate this image, and I want to rotate both layers, and I want to rotate them in opposite directions. How to do that? So another way to add an operator, instead of like clicking this and adding like a new branch and then adding an operator there, or adding an operator just completely blank on the network or the editor in general without any connections at all. Another way of adding a new operator is adding something in between two operators. So here, what I would like to do is I would like to rotate this image sort of somewhere between it going into the comp. So right here, I want to add something that rotates my image, and I can do it by clicking on the wire that connects these things together. Right clicking on the wire and saying insert operator. And the thing I want to insert is a transform. So the transform allows you to scale or rotate or position or translate an image. So you can see, like, before I click it somewhere, you can see that, or it's clearly it's going to add something in between here. So I just click it to confirm, and now there's a new operator between these two. Yeah, so the transfer allows me to scale, rotate and translate things. You can select the order in which those happen. For me, the default one is fine. I'm only going to rotate it, so I don't care about the others for now. So let's see how it looks like. So I can go into, just zooming into the transform a little bit, and I will just drag the slider either to the negative or to the positive side, and yeah, I can rotate the image. Let's see how it looks in the final sort of composite. So I'm gonna zoom in here and then I'll rotate it. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This is already creating this a little bit of these patterns. Of course, the other layer is completely standing still, so it's not rotating. So it's static. So the illusion is not really exactly there yet, but it's getting there. But I don't really want to manually do this. That's why I'm using a computer, so that I don't have to turn some sort of crank to rotate this. I would like to automate this rotation. And for this one also, we have many different ways of doing it. We could add, from the operators, we could add some sort of chop that rotates it in some sort of way. But before we go into that, we will get there at the end of these videos. But the first way of kind of just making something change over time is by adding a sort of a global like a global variable, in a sense, that you would have like for you, that you might be coming from processing kind of thinking, a way of thinking, programming. So you would have something like or in Arduino you have like the millis, or in processing you have frame count and things like these to kind of like tell you how much time has passed since the program started. There's a very similar thing inside TouchDesigner, and it's called absolute time, or abs time. And basically whenever we have any kind of number box here, we can add in an expression or a small script that somehow controls that number. And essentially how the scripting works in TouchDesigner is that we can write Python code directly here into these number boxes. And we'll be doing a lot of different examples on that, especially like how do we refer to other operators within our network by typing something here, or dragging an object there and it will create the code for us. But for now, we're going to actually manually type it in. And the thing that I'm going to type in is abs time. And you notice when I start typing, it's because it's a very small sort of box here. It's hard to see what I'm writing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little plus icon. And it then extends that line. And I can actually see better what I'm doing. So it gives me an error now. It's red because abs time on its own doesn't do anything. I have to do abs time dot, for example, seconds. And now it's connected to the absolute time of when the program started running. And it's just showing that in seconds here. And if I zoom in, I can see that it's rotating automatically, but it's very slow. And the reason why it's very slow is because, yeah, I've connected it to the seconds of my program. So it only turns 1 degree every second, which is fairly slow. There's another option for the absolute time. We can also get the frame number. So I could do abs time dot frame, and now it's faster. So this is maybe something more along the lines of what we need here. And if I take a look at it now in the output side, yeah, it's looking good. It's already rotating, but only one layer is rotating, so we'll need to do it for the other one also. Before I do it, just to show you, like this is an expression. It's not just like, if you look at here, in the rotate, there's different options now. There's like a constant, which would be just a number, like these all normally are, these gray values, they're just static numbers. The second one is an expression. I can write an expression using Python here. The last one is export. I will come back into that later. It's just like another way of making connections between different parameters. And then there's a last one is also is bind, which is another type of connecting things together. But the two last ones, I'm not going to go into them until maybe much later. We'll be working with expressions and constants in the beginning here. But as it is an expression, I'm not limited to just having this one value here, this abs time.frame. If I want it to be slower, I can add some math here. I can say abs time frame dot 0.5, and it will be going half the speed, or 0.25, so it will be going the quarter of the speed. Or if I want to have it spinning faster, I would do multiply it by 2. So you can do a lot of different sort of more complex expressions here if you want to. But for now, I think it's fine with just the abs time frame. Maybe we're gonna slow it down later, but we'll come to that. Okay, so one layer is rotating. I want to do the same thing for this one. So I will repeat what I just did. Right click, I want to right click on the wire. I want to insert an operator, and I want to insert a transform, and just click to confirm that it goes there. And in the rotate, again, I'm gonna click the plus to kind of see this expanded, and I'll start typing the expression. So I'll do abs time dot frame, and once I hit enter, it actually automatically detects that I'm writing an expression, and will change the mode from constant to the expression. So watch when I click enter, it goes into this mode, and it knows that what I'm trying to do is using an expression. But now obviously there's a small problem here. Both of them are spinning the same direction, when the entire illusion and the whole idea with the chromatropes is that they're spinning in opposite directions. That's the whole sort of the magic of it. But gladly, that's very easy to do. So with my transform 2, the one that goes to the second layer, I can just add a minus in front of it and hit enter. And now this one spins clockwise, this one spins counterclockwise. And now if I look at the result, I'm getting these psychedelic color patterns that I was looking for. And I think this is as far as we were able to get during the class. So I'm going to end this video here. And the next step is that we're going to, instead of having just one pair of these slides coming into my transform or the TouchDesigner project here, I want to include all of these other images, all the slides that we downloaded, and I want to be able to select which one I want to display on the screen. Now I forget like how far we actually got. Like, did we have time to add the switch there? I think we didn't. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll in the next video I'll show you how to do that, like how we can dynamically change the source files that we are transforming and compositing on top of each other. So I'll stop this video here and I will see you on the next one.